Hello everyone, and welcome back to Freedom Through Confidence. My name is Ben, and in this video we're going to be talking about the difference between life coaching and therapy or counseling. In self-improvement, there is often this conflation between the two professions, this idea that it is just as beneficial to have a life coach as it would be to have a therapist or a counselor, and this isn't something that I necessarily agree with. And I'm going to talk to you about why that is, about what the difference between a life coach and a therapist is in this video today, using a video that got randomly recommended to me on YouTube not too long ago. So I'm going to be kind of putting in a clip or two of that video in this video here. Yeah, let's jump into it and talk about what the difference between a life coach and a therapist is, besides of course a Ferrari.
And I gave an analogy to him today about a boxer who has a trainer in his corner. Now, boxing is about 3-minute bouts or 3-minute rounds with about a minute in between each round to regroup, to get instructions, to refresh, to close any wounds, and then to get back in the fight. I want to give the analogy to you that I gave to him, that a life coach, as I am, is important to you, to your life and your fight in life, because when you touch bases with your coach or your therapist, they're giving you the same insight that a trainer gives a boxer in the fight.
So my main contention with this is that the average life coach is roughly equal to the average trained counselor or therapist. The simple fact of the matter being, most of the time, it just isn't. Like, it's not a competition. It's not even close. And please bear in mind when I'm talking about this that I am technically a qualified life coach. I am a qualified NLP practitioner. I have all the certificates, like they're up on the wall behind me and like around the rest of my room. And I can say with absolute confidence that the average counselor and the average life coach are not the same thing. So when I say that someone is a therapist or a counselor, I'm usually talking about someone who has a degree or a postgrad degree or a doctorate, something like that. I'm talking about somebody who has gone through extensive counseling or therapeutic training. This is usually like 3 or 4 years worth, during which they did an extensive placement where they took on their own clients but under a supervisory setting. So they had someone there to give them guidance about what to do and about how to deal with certain situations. There was kind of a lot involved in becoming a counselor or a therapist. I know this because I'm starting my training to become a counselor at the end of this year. This is something that, at least in the UK, and my understanding is in the US, Australia, you know, all the typical places, if you do not go through this kind of training, and if you are not accredited by a regulatory body in therapy or counseling, sure, you can call yourself a therapist or a counselor, but you're probably going to be taken to civil court. On the other hand, life coaching just does not necessitate any of that at all, because life coaching is not regulated. There is no central body or central bodies that define exactly how much training that you have to go to. They don't hold anyone to certain standards. Now, of course, there are certain kind of coaching federation, like the ICF, for example, but you don't have to be part of the ICF to call yourself a life coach. You could call yourself a life coach with literally no training at all, or you could do it with absolutely minimum training. You could buy a course on Udemy for like £50. You can buy a course on like Facebook for like $7. You can spend, I think I spent like £1,000 or something to go to like a week-long training event to become an NLP practitioner, an NLP coach. It does not take long to qualify yourself to become a life coach, if you want to take any training at all. Some people just think that their life experience is enough to make them a life coach. And of course, there are some life coaches who are highly trained individuals, and these are people who are an absolute credit to their profession. They can do good work. But the problem is they are the exception, not the rule. Because when you have a completely unregulated industry that literally allows anyone in, it's not a protected term. You can just call yourself a life coach tomorrow. Like you right now, you could literally go and start a business as a life coach with no qualifications whatsoever, and no one would really question it. So when in this video he compares having a life coach or a therapist as having a boxing coach in your corner, this is something that I do take issue with, because whilst having a therapist or a counselor is probably like having a boxing coach, because this is somebody that has been through training, this is somebody who has been trained to train, this is somebody with a certain level of experience and knowledge behind them of people's mental health and how to deal with that and how to properly communicate with people. The average life coach is more like somebody who has watched boxing all of their lives, never actually boxed themselves, but has decided, yeah, I could train people to box. It's no problem at all. Let me just jump into the ring and start training people. Now, here's the thing. Somebody like that is probably every now and then going to give some pretty good advice. Like some of it is going to be just absolutely brilliant. But again, that will be the exception, not the rule. If a therapist or a counselor messes up, they get sued because there are regulatory bodies. They could lose their license to practice, or they could be kind of stripped of their accreditation. If a life coach messes up, they just go back to work the next day. Sure, they might get a bad rating, but they can always just shut down that business and start a new one, literally, because it's just that easy with life coaching. There is a reason why therapists and counselors and psychiatrists go through so much training before they can actually practice, why they have to go through supervision, why they have to go through counseling and therapy of their own. It's because people's mental health is fragile, and if you think that you can learn how to deal with that and gain the experience to deal with that in like a week-long intensive course, then you're wrong, and you might hurt someone doing that. So no, I don't think being a life coach is the same thing as being a therapist or a counselor. Do I think that there is a place for life coaches in the world of self-improvement? Absolutely, I do. Absolutely. Life coaches can be very effective in motivation, in habit forming, in goal setting, but they should not be taking the place of counselors or therapists, people who are trained to deal with people's mental health. If you start to think of your mental and emotional health as having the same value as your physical health, then you start to see things from a different perspective. If you have got a serious pain like in your spine, you don't go to your mate down the road who like took an online chiropractor's course. No, you go to your doctor, and the same thing should happen with mental health. If you are suffering from mental health distress, whether that's stress, anxiety, depression, you don't go to a life coach who bought a $7 course off of a Facebook ad. No, you go to an actual professional, a counselor, a therapist, a psychiatrist. And that's really all I've got to say in this video. I might not be the biggest fan of life coaches, but I do recognize they do have a place in self-improvement. It's just not the same place as counseling and therapy. So let me know what your thoughts and questions are in the comment section down below. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if this is the kind of content that you're interested in. I put out a video every single day all about confidence and life advice for the average Joe. So if that's what you want, subscribe to the channel, leave a like in the video, share it with all your friends. And that's it. That's all I've got for today. So thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in future videos here on this channel very soon.